All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to get started here. We are going to get started here. Welcome to today's webinar event on payroll, Church Windows payroll end-of-year procedure and W2's. We're going to be together for about the next 20 minutes or so. My CPU clock looks like it's a little behind here, but I'm pretty sure we're at about 2 p.m. promptly here. If you've seen what you came to see at any point during the event, of course, you may, close out of the webinar or exit or leave it if you wish. We thank you so much for attending in advance. A few technical things before we get started on our topic at hand. It's just me today. There's a lot more of you than there are of me, so if you have questions, please type those into the questions, Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay now. We're here to talk about Church Windows end-of-year procedure and Church Windows payroll and W2's. We're going to be together for about the next 20 minutes or so. Just a few things before we get started on that. If you have questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar. It's just me today. There's nobody answering questions for me. There's a lot more of you than there are of me. I will certainly do my best to keep an eye on those. And if it's certainly relevant, I will pause. We'll see what we can't do to get those questions answered for you. However, if I'm not able to get to it during the 20-minute event, I'll certainly be happy to stick around and try my best to answer that question for you after we're done here. We do ask that you keep the questions about the topic at hand. In this case, end-of-year procedure for payroll or W2's. There may be another webinar event that may be able to answer any other questions you have about the software. I'm going to wrap things up at 20 minutes after the hour promptly. So, then if you have questions and you need to answer those, please stick around. I will be happy to answer them for you. Just as an FYI for you, as we are going through the document that I'm using as my guide for today's event, can be found at churchwindows.com under our New Year Prep and Help page. And right down here under our payroll end-of-year steps, this is the document that I'm using. Okay, so if you're wanting the same information that I'm using as the basis for the event today, there it is available for you to print. Now this has not been updated yet to show 16 to 17, but if you can just interpret 14 to 15 or 15 to 16 as the periods of time, they're the same steps no matter what. Okay? FYI. So that's what I'm using, and it's there for you to print 24/7. Again, thank you in advance for attending. So the first thing that's on that document that's important to understand is that you're going to get a payroll update from us for 2017 right around the end of the year. That is, installing that update for Church Windows Payroll is not the same as performing or completing the end-of-year procedure in the software. Okay? Yes, when you receive that payroll update from us, generally it occurs right around the final week of the year, you can go ahead and install it. You will not, however, run the end-of-year procedure that I'm going to show you here momentarily until you've finished posting your final payroll of 2016. Okay, that's a very important note or distinction is install the update when you receive it. However, don't run the end-of-year procedure until you've posted your final pay of the current year. In essence, what occurs is it disables the prior year's tax tables and enables the new ones for 2017 once you run that end-of-year procedure. Okay. So basically, two things are required in order to perform the end-of-year for payroll. You've got to install the payroll 2017 when you receive it. If you're running Church Windows Payroll on a network, you'll need to install that on your server and your workstations. Okay. And then you need to run the end-of-year procedure. Okay? We are working on getting the 2017 payroll update out now. It is, we release that as soon as we have the updated tax tables from the government, of course. The previous year does retain the prior year's payroll information, of course, but the new version does install the New Year's tax tables. By way of reminder, until that new version is installed, your 2015 W2's are not issued or installed, and the New Year's tax tables. Okay, so if we were to go in and have payroll, if we were to go in and even run our end of year procedure, but I go back to reports, tax reports, and choose W2 forms here, those would still say 2015 because I haven't installed the 2017 payroll that includes the 2016 tax forms. Does that make sense? Okay. Also, when you install Payroll 2017, that does not update the 941 form. Okay? If I run it, even if I were to install it, I would still run the 941, and when I go to print it, it will still say 2016 on it. We always release a payroll update, a service release, a patch essentially, right at the end of the first quarter of every year that primarily updates the 941. Yes, it does update tax forms and or tax tables if for state at the state level or local if applicable. But the primary function of that service release is to install the new 2017 941. Yeah, because you've got to leave the 16 one in there in order for you to file or submit the form for the final quarter of 2016 in this case. Okay? So those are just a couple of really important things to notate about our payroll here. Okay? So just be aware that that's how that occurs. And once we get back to our main screen for payroll, so let's make the assumption that we've completed our final pay for 2016, and we've also installed our payroll update. It's again only, folks, the end of the first week of December here. We're still working on that. Our developers are to get that ready. So I don't have Payroll 2017 installed. Okay. So as with any update to the program, it's always advisable that we go to System Administration, Backup Data. We make a backup of the payroll data and put it in a spot, where we know we can retrieve it should we absolutely need it. Okay. So then when I go to choose the location and I click Start Backup, it says Backup. I'm not entirely sure why that was skipped. Let's try something different. Let's choose Desktop. So we click Desktop, click OK. There it is. Oh, it's saying it already contains a file, a backup file. I'm not sure why, folks, this isn't backing up the data. That's unusual here. Let's try exiting out of Payroll and let's relaunch it again. Let's see if that helps with anything here. Well, in any case, you really should be backing up your data one way or the other regularly, and certainly based on us installing and updating a new version of Payroll, then you would want to have a backup on that. So let's try this again. There it is. Well, something about that. So here it is, backup completed successfully, 1 of 1 backed up, tells us the size of the file, and we've got our data set backed up. Now this is again before we've run our end of year procedure. This may be a file that we may need to revert back to should we absolutely need to. So once we backed up our data, we've got the peace of mind that we've got that restore point should we need it. To complete the actual end of year procedure is very simple. We simply click on System Administration. We go right down to the very bottom here and click on the button or the link or the option that says End of Year Procedure. Okay. Oh, there it is. Sorry, this is new, folks. It says the end of year procedure should be run after you've updated your payroll software to 2017 release and after you have run the last payroll of 2016. Otherwise, you might lose data. It'll still allow me to do it. Notice it says continue. Do you want to continue? So I can say yes to that. Yeah, and it's even smart enough to warn me here that it says running the end of year procedure updates the payroll database from the current payroll year to 2016 to 17. It appears you have not installed the payroll 2006-17 update yet. Do you still want to continue? So I can continue to click yes through this. Then it should pop up with our 2000. Oh, there's our warning that our 2017 accounting year must exist as well. Okay. So you must have accounts assigned before payroll end of year can be run. So we've got all kinds of fail safes in here that are basically built in to protect you from not running this prematurely. Okay. So again, it's clearly not going to let us do that. I don't have my accounting year set up in accounting either. So there we go. There's an example of how our fail safes are built into the software to protect us from making mistakes. So you're going to receive very similar functions, but once we are able to pass all those tests, essentially install the update, run our final year, make sure that accounting year is open, then we should just be able to click on this and it should say this is going to update your payroll year from 16 to 17. Are you sure you're ready to do that? We click yes and it does it. Okay. I think there's even a prompt that pops up and says, would you like to clear any accumulated vacation and sick time as well? You have to make a decision about that, okay? So that's how easy it is to complete the end of year procedure. But when we've done that, we go to System Administration, System Profile, and the payroll year will say 2017. Okay? When we want to go back to 2016 to say run our tax documents, you simply choose the previous year from the list, click OK or apply and OK, and we're now back in the prior year. Okay? You have to change the year back in order to run your tax forms, your W2's, and your 941 for the prior year. Okay? You're only going to be moving forward into 17 when you're ready to calculate and post your payroll of that year. All right. So the final portion of this event is to talk about our W2's. The Social SSA or Social Security Administration e-filing, you can use the update, Kathy, will be sent right around the final week of the year. Usually that occurs. You know, we generally send that right around Christmas, right shortly thereafter, so you have that in time for the new year before your first payroll filings or payroll of the new year. Good question. You can file everything with the SSA yourself electronically. There is no charge for that. Some of you may already be doing that, but you do need a PIN. So if you haven't already, you probably want to get that application into the SSA to secure a PIN from them sooner than later. Probably right now may be too late. I think it takes certainly a couple to a few weeks. I think it says they allow approximately 8 weeks on the document. So here we are, 3 weeks removed from the end of the year. It's probably too late to get that. But you can always use it for future years. So if you're not filing electronically through the SSA now, then by all means get that PIN process started as soon as possible. You can't have it too soon. You can have it for next year if not for this year. In any case, if you don't have the PIN in order to file electronically, you can still, I think, submit the paperwork with them via the mail too as well. The Nelco wage filer, which Church Windows does have under reports, electronic filing. We've got the Nelco wage filer. The reason why this is important is that Church Windows doesn't have any electronic filing capability. Payroll doesn't have any electronic filing capability built into the software, at least not yet. Okay. The information, you can certainly, the form for the 941 from Church Windows that Church Windows produces can certainly be filed. But again, nothing in Church Windows Payroll can be used to file electronically. There's nothing in our software that connects to any government agencies or sites or anything else. Okay. Nelco Wage Filer it's a partner company of ours that users will use to file their documents, whether it's at the federal level or state or local. There is an expense or charge involved with that, but it doesn't hurt to do it. It's a per filing basis. It's not like you're setting up and establishing an account with Nelco that's like an annual contract with them. Okay. It's literally per filing. So if you want to file with them one time, it's very affordable from what I understand. I mean, we're talking about a few dollars here. To file for federal and or state, it might be worthwhile checking them out, checking it out on that. It'll tell you before you actually file how much the expense of the charge that will be. If you go, it's not, we don't want to pay that, you can just cancel out of it. You're not charged anything. Okay. They make it very upfront how much it's going to cost to file with them electronically, whether again it's at the federal, state, or local level. However, you don't need to use the Nelco wage filer, to do things like produce your 941s or your W2's, okay, again, at the federal level. Yes, you can use them for that, but in terms of what Church Windows Payroll produces, you don't need to, okay? You can go to tax reports, and again, the 941 form is completely fileable from Church Windows Payroll, as are the W2's, and I think the W3's too. But if we go to the W2 forms, here's our employees that we have, that the system detects that it wants to produce the W2's for, and I'm going to assume that's for everybody. We're good with that. We go to next. Our file copy is just basically our internal copy that we can look at. So if we look at it, it looks like it's a real fileable form, but it's not. It's just the employer copy. Okay. So if we cancel out of that, this is one basically we would just use if we want to look at a preliminary copy just to examine it. We're going to go back. Now we're going to change it down to government copy. Notice now when we do that, the document style list pops up. So it does, Church Windows Payroll supports the 3 different formats that the IRS does. The standard IRS format, which would require that you get the forms from them or from your local office supply store. The regular layered W2 forms. Okay. So when you click next on that, it just fills in the boxes. They're the pre-printed forms. Okay. However, you're not required to use those. So if we go back now and we choose 4 up, this is the form that we normally have, the 1 employee per page with basically a W2 in each one of the corners. There's a grid here and it just splits them and you can kind of tear them apart, and one's for federal, one's for state. Again, they're pre-printed. Okay? However, the most common option is black and white. So notice here, once we choose black and white, it does reveal the copy A, B, C, D, 1, and 2. These can actually be printed to plain paper from Church Windows Payroll, provided you're using a laser printer or a copier printer. A regular inkjet printer, they're probably going to reject those, okay? But you do need to print them and cut them and manually collate them. So as long as you have a laser printer or a copier printer, you can print the black and white format. There's no need to purchase or order any forms. These can all be produced and printed to plain paper. So, if we choose the SSA's, copy, click Next. It says do not fold or, staple or copy this form on the page. This is the ones basically that you would submit to the SSA, hence why this one wouldn't be cut or copied or stapled. Okay? This would be for the church's filing. Then when we go back here and we choose, say, copy B, that would be for the federal government, and then copy C would be for the employee. So again, you would need to print out each one of these as they were relevant to you. So here's the one, copy C is the one that would be for the employee's records that does include their W2 instructions at the bottom. So you would print out each one of these, a separate page for each employee, and distribute that accordingly. Okay? So the black and whites can be printed directly from Church Windows Payroll to plain paper, again using a laser printer or a copier printer. Okay? Certainly save you having to wait for them to arrive in the mail, perhaps even some purchase expense when they can be all produced directly from the software. All right? That's how simple it is to be able to produce those W2s. Here I am, and I just meant to go to a different copy and go to Next. So if we go to Federal now, notice I want to just point out on copy B here, it doesn't say don't cut or staple, so you can cut these in half and distribute them accordingly. Our payroll administrator also, I get these forms, at the end of each year, and I've never had any problem with the IRS or any of the taxing authorities with those. Okay? All right, so that's basically the topic, folks. Let me see what questions are here. Deanna's asking, is this the same PIN we use for the 941? I don't think so, Deanna, because the 941 is for the federal government. The SSA has their own separate filing, but you would need to find that out. But I'm 90% sure the answer to that is no. Will the government accept your 1099 or 1096 forms? That's a great question. Unlike the 941 or the W2 forms on that, Teresa, the IRS or the government still requires you that you purchase or use or order the forms for the 1096s. So yes, you can print them from Church Windows Payroll or from accounting, but you need the forms. There is no black and white option for those. Yeah, that would be nice if they would change that, but they haven't. So you still need the forms for the 1099s and 1096s. Great questions. All right, so again, folks, if you've seen what you came to see, by all means, click the file, exit, leave webinar, button there. Thank you so much. We hope it's been helpful. A copy or recording of this event will be on our YouTube channel, if I'm not mistaken, between now and the end of this week. I think there's probably one already out there or on our end of year New Year Prep and Help page on our website. It would just be for last year, not this year. But by all means, we've got lots of information about this available. Thank you. I'm glad to help, Cynthia. Oh, you're welcome. I thank you very much, everyone. Hope everybody has a nice holiday season. All right, well, I'm not seeing any other new questions coming in here, so let me go ahead and end the webinar for everybody. We hope it's been helpful, and we hope to see you at another Church Windows webinar event. Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.